It all started when I was about 12 years old. I was having a nightmare one night. I was in my room and I could hear voices coming from the kitchen. I opened my bedroom door and started making my way down the hallway towards the sound of the voices. To my relief, I seen my family, my brother, my sister, and my parents, sitting at the kitchen table talking and laughing. It was nice to see them so happy. That's when something caught my eye. At the bottom of the stairs to the basement, I could see what appeared to be a middle-aged woman with long black hair covering her face. She was wearing a long, ragged red dress. I could see her red eyes looking at me from under the hair covering her face. I was terrified. I looked towards my mother, who was the closest at the table, and started shouting, "Mom, look!" But she didn't answer. I started tugging on her sleeve, trying to get her attention, but to my horror, she acted as if I wasn't even there. None of my family was acknowledging anything I was doing, even though I was frantically trying to point out the lady at the bottom of the stairs. That's when I woke up in a cold sweat. It was morning time. I remember being terrified to look down those stairs for the next few days, and I did everything I could to avoid having to go down to the basement. After a week, I had another, similar dream. Same scenario. I woke up in my room and heard the voices of my family. This time they were gathered in the living room. As I made my way down the hallway towards the living room, I glanced down the stairs to the basement and seen that the lady in the red dress was there again. This time, she was halfway up the stairs. I ran into the living room once again, tried to get the attention of my family to let them know of the presence of the lady in the red dress. But it was as if I wasn't even there. I screamed at my family in desperation, but they continued to laugh and carry on. That's when I woke up again. These dreams started happening more and more frequently. The scary thing was, in every nightmare the lady was getting closer and closer to my family. At the top of the stairs in the dining room, it got to the point when she was sitting with my family in my dreams and I didn't even know. But those were just dreams, right? That's what I kept telling myself. They were just dreams, nothing to be worried about. After a while, things seemed to be going okay. I hadn't had any more nightmares for about a month after. That's when my parents told my brother and sister and I that we were going to be moving. We weren't too excited about the whole idea, but we tried to be positive about it. When we arrived at our new home, I got chills just looking at the house. It was like something right out of a horror movie. It was an old house, and looked like it had been unoccupied for quite some time. As we were walking up to the front door, I looked up and seen the lady in the red dress from my dreams standing in the upstairs bedroom window. When I told my brother to look, she was gone. I figured I must have just been seeing things. The house was pretty cool regardless of it being creepy. The furniture was very old and had a lot of unique features. Since I was the oldest of my siblings, I had the first pick of the rooms. Of course, I went for the biggest one. When I walked in, I noticed something that gave me chills down my spine. Hanging on top of one of the cupboard doors was a ragged red dress, the same one that the lady in my nightmares had worn. I picked a different room, having been too creeped out. Things were going okay. My family had settled in and my siblings and I were making some new friends. I made a new friend named Thomas. I would always go to hang out at Thomas's house, but for some reason he never wanted to come over to my house. I asked him about it one day, but he just started acting really weird as if he were trying to avoid talking about it. I thought it was very strange. A few nights later, I was in bed fast asleep when I heard a scraping noise coming from the hallway just outside my room. It passed my door and continued on towards my parents' room. My dad had gone out on a hunting trip with a few of his new buddies, so my mother was in there all alone for the night. I got worried. I heard her door creak open, and then I could hear loud screams. And then it was silent. I got out of bed and rushed down the hall to my parents' room and looked in shock at what I'd seen in front of me. My mother's decapitated corpse was hanging upside down, from her ankle, blood dripping from where her head used to be into a pool on the floor. Written on the wall in blood was the word whore. I screamed for my brother and sister, who had also been awakened. We called the police, who showed up just in a few minutes. My dad rushed home as soon as he found out. My whole family was in shock. We didn't know what to do. We were told to stay in a hotel down the road until the crime scene was analyzed and cleaned up. After a few days, the police department told us that after searching for evidence, they had no leads as to who did this to my mother or why they did it in the first place. We were devastated. At my mother's funeral 2 days later, we were gathered outside in the cemetery. I swore I could see the lady in the red dress walking around the outside of the crowd that had gathered for the funeral. As I made my way through everybody to get a better look, she was gone just like that. I was so scared, and when I told my brother and sister about it, they just thought I was crazy. So that's when I decided to talk to Thomas about it. I figured maybe he'd believe me. So that night I was over at Thomas's playing video games when I brought it up. I explained to him about all my dreams and how I had seen the dress in the bedroom, and how I seen the lady at my mother's funeral. After I had finished talking to him, I looked at him. He was pale, and he had kind of a wide-eyed expression on his face. "Thomas?" I said. "What's wrong?" That's when he told me everything. There had been a middle-aged couple that lived in our new house 10 years ago. The man started cheating on his wife while she was away during the days. This continued for several months, until one day the wife came home early and found them sleeping in bed together. She was extremely angry and brutally murdered her husband's new girlfriend in her sleep. She hacked off her head with an axe and shot her husband when he tried to stop her. After she had killed the both of them, she put their bodies into the wood stove and burnt them to ashes. After a few days, she began to get lonely in that big house of hers, and she ended up hanging herself. It all started to make sense to me now. When my family moved in, the spirit of that disturbed lady thought that my mother was another girlfriend of her husband, and that's why she killed her. My family moved into a new house far away not long after, hoping to start fresh. Things have been better. However, I still have the occasional nightmare about the lady in the red dress, and now and then I swear I see her standing in the woods or looking through my window. I'll never get her out of my mind, and I'll never be able to forget what she did to my mother. And now, whenever I see a woman wearing a red dress, I get chills.